Confidence. Ooh, I love this one. My radical, radiant, self-love, ritualistic, manifesting, beautiful, and joyful confidence. Welcome to another episode of Confidently Insecure, the podcast where we are absolutely sure we don't know everything. I am your host, Kelsey, darragh, and this week is such a good one, such maybe an unexpected one for our current breakup series. Our guest this week is she's a retired concert pianist turned entrepreneur who started her global skincare line, Savor Beauty and Spas in her kitchen, y'all. And she comes from a Korean descent, so you know we are not messing around when it comes to skincare here. She also has her book, Radical Radiance, that teaches you self-care and self-love more than just skin deep in only 12 weeks. Oh, three months, 4, 8, 12. That is 12 weeks. The math checked out. And her book, My Next 90 Days, The Savor Beauty Planner. And we are applying all of this to breakups. Our guest this week is Angela Gia Kim. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. You are so damn cute.
Stop it. I know you are, but what am I? I mean, you look amazing. You're sitting in this room where the light is hitting you. You look like a goddamn angel. And I'm like ready to soak in all of your higher power, gorgeous self that you're here to teach us. So let's get to it. Yeah, absolutely. My first question is girlfriend, I just got out of a 5-year relationship, and
I know
I arguably gave this man 5 of the best years of my skin and body and soul and life. And I came out of this being like, I looked in the mirror and I was like, who the hell am I? Do I look like this? I felt so discombobulated. So how does Radical Radiance sneakily play into sort of the reset that I'm feeling of coming out of a breakup?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's talk about skincare. Okay.
Yes.
Your skin can get better. That was not the best 5 years of your life, darling. It can get only better. And they say the best revenge is to look amazing, which you do. Live well, right? Yeah. So the first ritual in the book is I teach you how to wash your face the right way. And because the whole premise about Radical Radiance is how you treat your skin is how you learn how to treat your soul. Both need love, nourishment, and detox. And especially when you're going through a breakup, because you're very vulnerable. There's a lot of healing. And this is actually the most exciting time of your life, right? Because I don't know, have you started dating yet?
Yes, I have, Angela.
Okay. You have.
Yes.
So was it did you break up and then you started did you get on the apps right away, or did you break up and give yourself time?
So we were in an open relationship, a non-monogamous relationship. So we were always on the apps, but the last 6 to 8 months was hell, for lack of a better term. And I was not sleeping right. I was not eating right. I was not washing my face. I was not taking care of myself. So I think I had sort of this long game of breakup and grieving while it was happening, so that once it was kind of final, I was like, Mama she needs a reawakening. I went to a retreat and kind of came out of that
Beautiful.
Okay, time for a reset. And now I feel okay to go out and dating. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, I took a little bit of time to myself, but I also wanted to get back out there.
Okay. Well, I love the word you just used, retreat. And that's another thing that I talk about is Radiance Retreat, where we take these self-care sabbaticals, like what you just did. I call that a self-care sabbatical, self-love adventures, time for yourself to amp up your radiance, because what we radiate, everything is energy. Do you believe that, Kelsey? Everything
you
is
are
energy.
on the right podcast, Angela. Yes.
So we want to radiate our highest vibes to attract like vibes, to attract like frequency. And that's what the book really is about, is learning how to do that, radiating from the outside. Because when I was, as you know, you and I talked about it just briefly before we got on air, I got a divorce during the pandemic, which was devastating because it was a 20-year marriage.
Wow, yeah,
can you believe it?
Yes.
It was a long time. And we have a beautiful 12-year-old daughter, but to be just by yourself suddenly during the pandemic, it was a very lonely time. And it was probably the best year. 2020 was the best and worst year of my life.
Yes. Wow.
Because I learned how to love myself again. And that's the thing, is like going on these radiance retreats and treating your skin and detoxifying. We all had time, right? Were you doing masking during the pandemic?
Yes.
Right. And we were taking care of our skin, and now we had time to take baths. We had time to take longer time in the shower, meditation, yoga, Kundalini yoga, all on Zoom, right? It was beautiful because I think that was a perfect opportunity to fall back in love with ourselves and get to know ourselves better. And then to be able to vibrate all of that, you know, while I was dating, it really helped me to attract the right man back into my life. You know what I mean? And so I think it's all important.
Yeah. You pointed out such a good thing that I was alluding to, is that like, this is not just a book about skincare, which it's important. That part is a big part because, you know,
it is a big part.
Your girl got hormonal acne when she was 30. But can you tell us a little bit about how Radical Radiance, even just as like our physical or, you know, whatever you want to call the outward appearance, affects and is so connected to our inner peace and inner radiance?
Well, I think what you do to your skin today at the age of 30 is going to show up when you're 50. And so it's so important to take care of it. And so when you're washing your face at night, it can be a skin and spiritual reset. You're literally cleaning out your pores. You're literally taking out the sebum and the debris and the toxins out of your skin. And if I like to do it, like I'm doing that to my spirit as well, where I'm just going to go to bed, reset. I'm not going to take to bed any of the gunk in my pores from New York City. I live in New York City. And I'm also not going to take to bed any of the gunk of the, you know, the stuff that goes on during the day, you know, whatever it is. Maybe I had, you know, as you said, I have businesses. So whether it's an employee issue or it's a business issue, I'm not taking that to bed anymore. In my 30s, I did. I took it to bed. I thought about it. I opened up my phone in the middle of the night trying to solve things. I don't do that any longer. And so the double cleanse at night is the first ritual I teach to give you that pure, gorgeous skin that radiates, so that you can do the same for your inside as well.
I love,
and then I go in more about like exfoliation. You talked about hormonal acne, which is really tough to control because it's your hormones.
Yeah.
But if you go in for facials, you take care of yourself, you detoxify, you exfoliate with peels, which you can get anywhere. You do that once a week in the shower. You can literally think of yourself as exfoliating that top layer of skin and dead skin cells that you need for renewal, for gorgeous, shiny skin. You can do that for your soul too, where we let go and exfoliate our souls. So that's what I try to teach in the book. How do you do this on your skin and then apply it to your soul?
And we don't like learn this stuff. I went to public school in Florida. We didn't learn about our taxes or our inner peace. We weren't taught that this process, like the way you treat your body, is going to be reflected on the inside. And where did you discover that in your journey of like, okay, this is beyond just skincare? Because by the way, I am obsessed with your skincare. That pumpkin serum, baby, I was putting it on everyone that walked through my door this past week. Like anyone who came in, I was spritzing them with like the rose spray and they got pumpkin serum. So like, where did you learn the connection in your life of how you treat yourself on the outside is going to be so reflective of what happens inside?
Because, I really believe that how you do anything is how you do everything. So how you do the small things is how you do the big things in life. When you think nobody's looking, like that's what I talk to my daughter about all the time. I'm like, I know that you think you're going to get an A, but dot all your I's, cross your T's, because how you do this today is how you're going to do the bigger things in life. And I see that with my employees. So even because I used to be a workaholic, where I used to work 13-hour days. And it was insane. Because when you're building a business, a beauty business, it's a lot of work. Especially when you start in your kitchen and then you open up spas in New York City, where rent is like upwards of $20,000 to $30,000 a month.
Girl, what?
I know. So like, it's a lot, right? So I used to work all the time and worry and do all the stuff that a type A New Yorker would do. But I think what helped me was when I started washing my face and doing yoga at night, I was like, wait a minute. I love the lusciousness of this minute. What would happen if I stretched a little bit more? What if I took time and started cooking during the pandemic? I think a lot of us did that. What if I started to enjoy the process of cooking? What if I decided not to take my phone on this walk? What if and then I started to realize, oh my God, I'm a total person. And I talk about in the book, there's a manifest wheel, you know, and so you can be all about success, but then you can forget about your social life, or you forget about your self-care, or you forget about your space, right? So there's 6 pieces of this manifest wheel that I created. It's like, are we a whole person? And can we bring that back into balance? Because if you're not working hard enough in your career, let me tell you something. I believe women should work, because that's self-care. This is self-care, right? And self-care is not about sitting on a couch and watching just a movie. It's also about making smart financial choices. It's about making smart career choices. It's about getting a job and not depending on someone else. It's about, you know, like I told my daughter, you know, go for that A, go for it, and ask for from yourself the integrity to do your very best, because how you do the small things is how you do the big things, you know?
Yeah, I heard it on another podcast you were on, as well as you kind of briefly mentioned it here, about self-care isn't, you know, what we see on Instagram with the bubble bath, or like you mentioned, the binging of maybe a Netflix show, and we think that's self-care, because I think, you know, a lot of this audience is young women, and they're working, or maybe they have kids, and they feel like, well, that's a luxury. That's not really something I have time for. And when I do, I'm just too tired to do anything. And what I found myself experiencing was through the breakup was like, I had a hard time harnessing that self-love to feel like I deserved that care. Like, I just want to sleep right now. I don't want to get up and do this thing. And so do you have any tips from the book, or, you know, your life experience of when you're in those ruts, those like nasty parts, not the regular, okay, I have the space or room to take a beauty sabbatical, but like when you're in those ruts, what are little things maybe that can inspire our radiance?
Yeah, I love that you just said that, because sometimes you do need to binge on the Netflix, and that's okay too, right? Like, I just got done binging on Real Housewives of Dubai. I love that one.
I haven't started it yet.
Like, you got to have some junk for your mind too. I mean, it's all about balance. You know, I think it's all about scheduling, and it's about people. So it's like you saying, Kelsey, you waking up and, you know, you just get on text and you're like, hey, girlfriend, you want to go dancing tonight? So you're not going to let that girlfriend down, because you guys have committed to the dancing. Go buy the tickets, because if you put money on it too, and you buy the tickets to the club or whatever it is, you're going to do it. Let's go see this concert. Let's do this. Like, if you actually, when you're feeling up, you take care of yourself and saying, you know what, Kelsey, I know that I probably might wake up in 2 days really depressed, but I'm going to plan an amazing picnic with 3 friends that day. And so I have to get out of bed. You know what I mean? I always say it's a schedule and people. If you can involve it, like, or when you went on your retreat, right? You probably had to plunk down some money. You're not going to miss that. And you did. And how good did you feel doing it?
I didn't want to leave. And integration is such a key part. I was hoping you would touch on sort of like integration too, and maintaining, you know, these new, beautiful, gorgeous routines and practices that we learn.
So what do you mean by integration? You mean like incorporating and fusing it into our lives?
Yeah, right? Because like, you know, you've got this gorgeous schedule, 12 weeks, 3 months, 90 days, like anything can happen. It's not really to end in 90 days. How do we integrate that into being like what we want our lives to look like?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up the Savor Beauty self-care planner, because that's what I'm all about. I'm about plan it in, because if you don't plan it, it's probably not going to happen.
Yep.
And so there are things like, you know, I bought tickets to Cancun. I wasn't going to back out with these non-refundable tickets.
Yeah.
I joined an emotional fitness gym downtown in Chelsea. Oh
my gosh. Wait, what is an emotional fitness gym?
I know. It's where you meditate, you join other spiritual minded people, and you do things like cacao ceremonies. You do psychedelic meditations, like not drug psychedelic, but just like dome meditations. Like, it was so beautiful. So every Friday night, I'd be like, I have a date with myself. I'm going to walk down to Chelsea from the Upper West Side where I lived.
Wow.
And I'm going to do, I've paid for this emotional fitness gym. I'm going to ask a friend if they want to come with me and join me, or I'll do it by myself, but I'm going to buy that ticket. I'm going to buy my spot. So I'm committed to go. So I did hip hop dancing with some friends that I barely knew. I did Central Park picnics, like just getting out there to raise your radiance, right? It's all about, can you do it, right? It's all about getting out there. And yes, I went on dates, but I didn't go on dates out of desperation. Because you can approach dating apps with different types of energies, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's desperation, there's revenge, there's all sorts of ways, or there's just plain old fun. And so I always viewed it as, I'm going to have fun on these dates and I'm going to learn something new. So maybe this date, the first 5 minutes was a dud, but I would tell myself, it's okay. You don't have to stick around for much longer. Just learn something new, whether it's about what I like or whether he's going to talk about something that's interesting and fun. I don't know. You know, so I learned how to make a Manhattan. I learned how to make a steak the right way. So approaching, you know, this is all about raising your radiance and your energy and your frequency so that you feel damn good. That's the goal.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's sort of like what you touched on when we first started talking, was like, it can get better. Like not only my skin, but like my soul. And I mentioned this with a friend a couple weeks ago on an episode where I said, I don't think it was necessarily the relationship that was making me a miserable person or a less vibration, like a lower vibration person, but something has changed massively in the way that I exist in the world, where I feel nicer. I feel like I'm attracting nicer people to me. I'm attracting better deals and more money to me. It was a process. It took years. You know, I stopped drinking alcohol 3 years ago. I think that was like the start of my journey. And it's really gone up, even though I would consider a breakup to be, you know, a pretty big down. And don't get me wrong, it was down when it was down. But there is something about knowing that you're not stuck. You're never stuck. And it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter the gender. It doesn't matter the geographic location. It's a process that takes time. And I love when you said scheduling, because I live and die by my Google Calendar. And I would schedule in yoga. I would schedule in like a facial at home night. I would schedule in these things because it is work. It doesn't come easy.
Right. Yes. I love that. It is work, and it's beautiful work, right? And it's meaningful work, and it's work that's going to last you for the rest of your life. And it's going to help you amplify and elevate your next relationship. So wait, let me ask you something. So when you said that you broke up with this guy, did you mean that like there was something in that relationship that felt toxic, and then when you got out of it, it felt less toxic? Or what did you mean by that piece of it?
Yeah. It was a mutual breaking up. I think it just was happening at like different times. We were trying to save it, and one of us was in and one of us was out for the last like 6 to 8 months, where we finally agreed at the end on the right process forward, was that like, yeah, we just don't belong together, and we can consciously uncouple with love, and it doesn't have to be toxic, because the back and forth really was toxic. It was trying to make something work because there was love. It's not like anyone cheated. No one really lied. It wasn't malicious. It just, we weren't on the same path anymore. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the way you called it, like you just wanted it to be a positive parting of ways, right?
Yes.
And so the chemistry just for whatever reason wasn't working. And so when you got out of it, you probably, just knowing you and feeling your energy right now, you probably just got into higher energy field, energetic fields that started to attract like frequency.
Yes.
And I think that's key. And you talked a little bit about, well, what about those times when I don't feel like I deserve to take care of myself, right? And I think we all go through that. But what if we all, I remember my first conversation with my now partner, we talked about, what is it that you want out of life? And he said, I want to just be happy. Now I want to be happy. He was also getting out of a very toxic 20-year relationship. I was getting out of a, I know, what a coincidence. My divorce was very amicable, and we're friends and we're very good co-parents. He doesn't have the same situation. But the thing is so he said, I just want to be happy. And I said, well, what if you framed it more like feel good unconditionally? because I think happiness is a high, tall order.
Yeah.
And it feels like you have to be like, hey, and up all the time, dancing around. But then you've got these down moments. And how do you nurture yourself so that you can just feel good unconditionally? So maybe something is happening in a breakup and you really miss him, but then you go on social media and you see a picture of him on a date, right? Like, bummer. And then it's like, but I'm going to feel good unconditionally. What can I do to shift my mind around that? And yeah, so there are rituals around how do you feel good unconditionally and surround yourself in the self-love vibration. And so I call it a vibrational deep cleanse.
Love that.
Where you're just going to cleanse yourself out. And so I don't know if you want to post this or if I should read what the exercises are. It might be too petty.
No, really? Absolutely not. Okay. We love it. Perfect podcast for this.
So go to page 153.
Okay, I'm going. I've got her book. It's gorgeous. Okay. It's also so cute, you guys. Great little coffee table moment with like decor. Okay, perfect. Ooh, look at this. A vibrational deep cleanse.
Yeah. And if you go to the previous page, like 150, I created a chart for everyone that's like, these are your dull vibrations and these are your radiant vibrations. So I'll go through the top three, for example. Yeah. A dull vibration is you feel stuck, like what you were just talking about, Kelsey. You're just stuck in the mire of things. A radiant opposite vibration is flowing. You're flowing now, right? It's much more flowing. Yeah. Dull vibration is reacting to things like, oh my God, I'm on social media and I just saw him on a date with another girl, that asshole. And then the radiant vibration is responsive. No, I send love to them and he deserves the best just like I do, right? It's a very different vibration. Fatigued versus energetic, self-centered versus self-aware. So I just go through a lot of those emotions that we have and how do you flip it to a radiant one so that you attract a higher frequency. So this vibrational deep cleanse, I talk about, you can get a pen and paper. You can also, record your answers on a voice memo. Get candle and crystals out. And I talk about the first step, how you just, as a symbolic opening, wash your face using the double cleanse technique, the very first ritual I taught you. Treating your skin. You want to purify your pores as you gently treat your skin like the most expensive silk in the world.
That's what your mom said, right?
That's what my mom said. And I think don't you think that's a beautiful metaphor for treating yourself?
Love.
Like the most expensive. So, because we see a lot of clients come into the Savor Beauty spas in New York City and they're like washing their face with abrasive peach scrubs and like they're not taking the time to love. So that's what we teach them. Okay. Then the second part is to reflect after you've cleansed your face. So what you want to do is do a vibration cleansing protocol that will help you process and move through negative emotions. Because I'm not one of these woo-woo people that believes, hey, just think positive thoughts, because that's not realistic, right? No. So, and that's part of the reason why I wrote the book, because I was tired of people saying, just think positive thoughts. Well, screw you. Right. How do I just do that when I feel like crap, right?
Right.
So, okay. The first thing is you identify how I'm feeling. So you write down, I'm feeling blank. And then if you can't even identify how you're feeling, because you're feeling so much emotion, so many emotions, you can ask yourself, well, is there an action you feel like taking? Let's take this social media picture as a example. Yes. Well, you feel like blocking him and sending her a hate message, hate DM. That's what you feel like doing. That could give you an indication that you're feeling angry or jealous or hurt. Then the second question you can say is, what was the external condition or thought that caused this feeling? Sometimes we don't even know. Sometimes you'll put down the phone, you'll be like, asshole, but you don't even know why you feel it. And then you're like, oh, I just saw a picture. I scrolled through and now I don't feel good, right? Okay, so then the next question would be, but why did it affect you? And then you can keep asking yourself, why did it affect you? Because how did he move on and I didn't move on? Or why is she's not even that cute? Why is he with her? You know,
the rejection is harsh. Yes.
The rejection. Keep asking, but why does that bother you? Because I feel like he's moving on and I feel jealous. And then it's like, well, here's the next question. Is there any aspect, positive or negative, of the external condition that provides insight? Well, I did tell him that he could move on. And I also went on a date last night. We just didn't post pictures yet.
Ah.
And I really wish him well. And actually, I'm really glad that he's moving on. And so then you start thinking, oh, that was just my gut reaction. But actually, this is what I wanted 6 months ago.
Right.
And then the last thing to ask yourself is to ask yourself, are there any takeaways, clarifications, or lessons? So the lesson learned is that provided closure for me. And I'm really happy because now I don't feel like I have to hide that I've moved on as well. And then this is what I'm grateful for. Then you get into gratitude. I'm so grateful that I also am going out and having fun. I'm so grateful that I feel good. I'm so grateful that I just went through this exercise and that I'm starting to feel good unconditionally. And then how do you want to feel? I want to feel, I don't know, Kelsey, how would you want to feel after that exercise?
I want to feel renewed.
Free.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Now you're going to try to tune into that word free, renewed, renewal, rejuvenated. And that will just be your word of the day, your affirmation of the day. I feel renewed. I feel renewed. And then you start looking for things and scheduling things that will help you feel renewed. Meditation, join an emotional fitness gym, jump off a small cliff and get into the water, right? Not literal cliff, like go into the water, dive into water.
Yeah.
So, you can release the what is of the moment and focus on feeling good unconditionally. So that's a vibrational deep cleanse.
I mean, wow, guys, when I told you this is more than just a book about like skincare or self-love, like I'm not kidding. That was the free therapy that you all just got that I would love to just clip out even that vibrational sequence and post it everywhere because that's the kind of stuff that they don't teach you about when it comes to self-love. We just market. We get bombarded. Yep.
They just say, feel good. Why are you feeling bad? Don't focus. And then you're like, oh my God, I feel bad. I don't know how to feel good. And then you start becoming delusional. And I just think that whatever it takes, that whole vibrational deep cleanse just took you through, a kind of a journey. And I can totally see you and a couple friends getting together and you're like, feeling bad about something. You could just say, let's do a vibrational deep cleanse.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
Yes. And like it becomes ritualistic too when you add in like the crystals and the candles and your gal pals. And we remember that this work doesn't have to be done alone. And in fact, some of it is better done when you have an accountability partner or someone to share these things with or be a reflection back to you, which is why I also love like the next 90 days, the planner, because there is something to making it ritualistic, right? To really making it a habit.
Right. Because it is a habit to sometimes for us to feel bad. And especially when you're going through a breakup, it's natural. So we do need to schedule in these moments. So you could say, hey, let's get together, gal pals or guy pals, whatever. And let's do a vibrational deep cleanse. Come on. Come over. I'll serve some apple cider mimosas and we're going to do this. We're going to have so much fun.
I'm obsessed. And I didn't know it was so different in my life. Like I hadn't really noticed the change myself because I had gone through this big trauma and I was coming out the other end and I knew it felt good, but I thought it should take longer or that it was going to look a different way. And then, a date was at my house and he said something like, whenever I'm with you or at your place, I feel like I'm at a hotel. I feel like I'm at a spa. I feel like because in every room of my house, I've got some cedar burning. I've got your sprays all over. I've got, lavender incense. I just went, you know what? I'm going to put this beyond just my inner feeling. I'm going to put it in my space. I'm going to put it in a way that when you enter my sacred, holy dome, that is either my house, my body, my mind, my heart, I want you to feel what I'm feeling too. And I think physically making your space, as sacred and ritualistic as what we're talking about here is just as important.
I love that because you're actually raising the vibration of your space and the surroundings is helping you to rise up and feel good unconditionally. Right. And also those small moments, I call them moments, experiences where you're doing the sage or the candles or the incense or music. They're small reminders to get grounded and get out of our crazy monkey brains because that we all have it.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of my journey was learning how to remember, first thought, worst thought, but it's the second thought that counts, right? Like, of course, my mind is going to automatically program to first thought was my worst thought. But then how can I say, okay, if then what? If this happens and I feel this way, then what? And these are all practices that don't happen overnight, kids. It takes time. It takes practice. You have to actually implement them into your life. It's
yes. And
process.
That's actually what you just said is a vibrational deep cleanse. You are just elevating yourself because you basically did that. You're like, right? Because what we just went through was, this is your first thought. What was the action that created that thought? Now, how can I reframe it? Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love
you
that.
have so many amazing chapters in this book, or they're broken down into weeks, right? Because you're doing this every week. And I love that you give us time to really put these practices and implement them into our space and time, because we get busy. We get tired one night. We don't get to take the book out on the nightstand. We don't always get to be perfect. We're not crossing off the X's on the calendar for 90 days perfectly. But there were some chapters that stood out to me that I wanted to just touch on lightly and get a little bit deeper into, that you could tell us what we could expect in each chapter. Because I think these are ones that kind of like surprised me a little that I hadn't thought about. So the first one is, and I love the title, which I'm like, she's so cool, is Get Lit from Within. Like what is that? And what can we learn in that chapter?
Okay, that's one of my favorite chapters. Before I get into it, I just want to talk a little bit about how to use a book, because I think this is my life philosophy. This is, if I had 6 months to live, I would have written this book for my daughter and said, here's my secret on how I built a seven-figure business. Here's my secret on how I found love. Here's the secret on how I'm parenting. This is the secret to manifest abundance, beauty, and joy into your life. So it's a lot. So my suggestion is to read the first two chapters, the intro and the first chapter on skin, but then open it up and daily and just read the chapter, because they're very small little snippets, bite size. They're like little bonbons that you can eat. And then if your curiosity carries you further, you can let it go. You can go deeper with it. So that's my suggestion.
Great.
Okay. Get Lit from Within is all about illuminating your inner beauty. We talk about, have you ever met someone that you're just like, she's glowing, she's gorgeous, but it's not necessarily her. Oh,
you look, I told you this lighting you got going on. It's like doing the most, and I love it.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. But I'm sure you've met other people that it's not necessarily about the looks. It's just about like, oh my God, she's just glowing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. It's the vibe. It's the vibe. You're so attracted to the vibe, right?
Yeah.
So I think connecting to your soul is one of the most important relationships you'll ever have. And so Get Lit from Within Love is really about how do you connect to your inner essence? How do you connect to your soul? So I talked a little bit about radiance rituals and radiance retreats, what you and I talked a good part about earlier in this conversation. And thinking of them as exploration playdates, inspiration getaways, creativity excursions, and frequency equilibriums. They really connect us in profound ways. Like, how do we need to be loved? Right? So the love that you're craving in your life, can you give yourself that kind of nourishment and love yourself? Right? So, and then connecting to your inner essence, I think page 54 is a very important chapter. And I talk about one of my friends in New York City is a sex therapist. And she and I were having a conversation over cocktails one day. And she was talking about how women in New York City in their 30s are crazy. Because they're like, their biological clocks are ticking. And she has so many of those clients, right? Yeah. And then she talks about the 40-year-old who's usually getting a divorce and the 50-year-old who's just starting again. And we were talking about intimacy. And I asked her, well, what is intimacy and for you? And she was like, that's such a good question. I'm having my own dating issues. I can't apply my own principles to myself. And so I know. So I went home and Googled the word intimacy and I looked it up, and it means deeply knowing another person and feeling deeply known. And that got me to think, do we really know ourselves? But do we know, do we feel like we know and accept ourselves. You know, all the good parts and all the crazy parts and all the in between. Do we really accept and love and know that part of ourselves? So there's on page 56, there's the inner essence meditation. And I teach you how to get in contact with your inner essence. And you will be surprised if you I think you should do this ritual, Kelsey, because you'll be surprised at how you describe your inner essence.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's
if you go through that exercise, it's really mind and soul opening.
Yeah. I was going to say radical, but that's literally in the title.
Yeah, it's radical. It is radical because you know what radical means? Radical means, people think it means extreme. It actually means radix, which is getting to the root. Yes. So you're getting to the root of who you are. And then I talk a little bit about passion and how passion is a way that we connect with our souls, our inner essence, right? Passion is something that you and I we can't define, but we know it's there.
Right.
It's an energy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then I also talk in that chapter about brilliance, about how our failures and our flaws are often what make us beautiful.
Wow.
So that's in the chapter called Kintsugi Gold. And Kintsugi is a Japanese. Yeah. You know Kintsugi?
Yeah. I have a kid here at my house randomly. My ex left it here. And I was like, well, that's got to be some sort of crazy metaphor. But please explain.
Okay, so kintsugi is a Japanese art form where if you break pottery, instead of throwing it away, you glue it back together with gold. So it makes all of the cracks more beautiful, actually. Yes. And so I have a whole chapter on kintsugi gold because it's like your brilliance, like the things that make you so vulnerable, the things that make you feel ostracized, broken, discarded, all that stuff is what makes us beautiful. Like, so for example, I grew up in Ames, Iowa, and I was made fun of probably daily. People would call me chink, yellow skin, and I had glasses, so 4 eyes. So there were very few Asians. And so I lived there for almost 18 years of my life.
Oh, wow.
I was very ashamed that I was Korean. And so I I can't even speak Korean because I denounced my heritage. And I was like, I'm going to act as white as possible. I'm going to be, super duper American. So no one can ever make fun of me, And then when I started Savor Beauty, even though all of my beauty secrets came from my Korean heritage, I didn't even own that. And then one day I realized kintsugi. Yes. Right? The part of myself that's been ostracized, the part of myself that was left out when I was younger, I was going to start owning that piece of myself. And you know what? I started talking about the Korean beauty rituals and how my mom taught me everything and how when I went to Korea, I learned how to massage my face in the most loving way and use that very massage that I learned from my aunts in our facials today that make our facials so popular, like Goop. Refinery 29, Mind Body Green, they all have lauded our facials because of this facial massage.
Yes.
That came from my Korean heritage. And so I started owning it. And that's when the press, like People Magazine, Self Magazine, all of these big major magazines started to feature us, even the New York Times, right?
Yes.
So it was like, that's when business started taking off, when I was like, I'm going to own this piece of myself that I was so embarrassed of. And I'm going to bring it. And so that became my kintsugi gold, right? The brilliance.
Oh, I love that.
So what is it? Yeah. So all of this pain that we all go through, we all have our own pain, right? And if we pick up that pain and then we say, but maybe I can help others heal from it, or maybe it's part of my story and maybe I own it and I learn the lessons from it. And that makes me more, and my life story so much more beautiful, right?
And like it's inner child work. Like you were healing that inner child, that ignored part of you that society made you believe was not you for so long. Like that's so gorgeous.
Right.
It's owning your narrative, owning your story. That's so juicy.
Right. And another story I can think of that I think most of America heard about is, do you know Elizabeth Smart?
Oh, of course. Oh, yes. I recall that. It was back in my childhood days. That was
childhood
massive.
days. I know. So I think that was in Utah, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So the unspeakable happened to her. right? And everyone was sort of like, she was being just, I mean, I can't even talk about it without getting emotional. Like just this child, right? This horrible couple doing these horrible things to this child and kidnapping her and stripping her from her family. And then people were kind of, when she was found, it was found out that she had been in society for a while, but she couldn't speak up because she had lost her voice. And apparently like her kidnapper was threatening her. And so she could have just the whole time that she was growing up and she became a phenomenal young woman, ignored this whole thing and decided to do something else with her life, right? She could have brushed it under, but she brought that horrible thing that happened and she turned it into Kelsey gold, in my opinion. She started the Elizabeth Smart Foundation and now she's educating people. Like, don't judge a child for not speaking out. Let's not do that. And that's educating people, right? And she's got this beautiful foundation that's healing the hurt that happened to her. That's an extreme example of something horrific that she's turned into something so golden, right?
And we all have that
and we
choice.
can all find
we
all have that inside of us. And when we're ready, we will all handle it. You know?
Yes. We're not asking you to just do it today, but like, know that it's on the horizon and know that it's possible, which I think when heartbreak happens, like I know, even if it's amicable, like there is a grief that only someone else who has gone through heartbreak that understands how heavy and just how big that is. And it's not something that, we joked about it on the podcast. Like, how am I supposed to sit in a Zoom meeting with like executive producers and not be like screaming from the rooftops what's happening in my personal life? Like it was seeping into everything. And so honoring that pain, allowing that pain to be something that, you have to figure a way to turn it into gold, because you can't build kintsugi with super glue. It's not as cute. I mean, you can, but it's not going to it's not going to feel as good. It's not going to look as good. So but finding how to mine that gold is that process that's so valuable.
Well, the thing that you asked me that I loved at the beginning of this interview was, what are some concrete things that people could do? And so when you're going through that type of pain, the only thing that will lead you out, because there are many ways you can exit that pain. You can exit with revenge. You can exit with, feeling like the victim. You can exit in many, many ways. I think the most beautiful way so that you can celebrate the kintsugi gold is to take inventory of your lessons learned. Ooh. What did I learn? Right. Ooh. And that's a very simple thing. So even if it means, my side of the sidewalk was, maybe I should have left 6 months previous, or, I deserved to take care of myself as much as I was taking care of him or the significant other. This next time around, I am not going to neglect myself. I'm going to keep my passions up. I'm not going to move for a guy or whatever it is. You're just whatever your story is. So I think, and then clarity. It's like, it's kind of like contrast and clarity, right? Yes. So the contrast, this is not what you want. So when it's almost like there's a saying, the barn's burnt down, I can now see the moon. So it's like, the contrast of it. It's like, that I really don't want. So my next one, I'm going to focus on, I want this situation. I want this experience. Yeah. You can apply this to a breakup. You can apply this to career. You can apply this to anything.
Yes, absolutely.
Your next home.
Yeah. And knowing it exists, right? Like we think it's supposed to go one type of way because that's what we've had in the past, right? I've been through a million breakups, but this one felt like I'm going to choose to do something differently despite what my programming and my downloads are telling me to do. I have the ability to change. That's why I love that was the first thing you said to me. You were like, girl, your skin can get better. You might not have even hit your peak yet. And I was like, I never thought about that. We think we've already been the best version of ourselves because we think of beauty and I know you don't call it aging. We call it gaining wisdom.
How did you know that? That's good. Did I say that in the book?
Yes. Or you said it on some podcasts that it was like, it's not anti-aging, it's gaining wisdom. Yes.
It's gaining wisdom. Yes.
And how beautiful.
I believe that. And you can get so much better, like fine wine over time.
Oof.
Also, people have a problem with aging. They're like, oh my God, the aging thing, she's getting so much older, but I'm just like, what a blessing that she's still alive to get older, right?
Privilege.
Right. So you can see your friends, you can see your family, you can see your children. There's so much to be grateful for.
Yep. It's fighting the programming. It's fighting the marketing and the way that we're taught to feel that we should be feeling as we age. And that's what I love about what you're teaching is it's really anti-capitalistic in a way. It's really saying, I'm giving you all these tools. And hey, if you want to come in for a spot treatment and get this really amazing facial that everyone loves and wants to write about, come enjoy that too and learn about that process. It's really powerful. And I can't believe how freaking fast time has flown by. We've been talking for 45 minutes already. I didn't even get through all of my questions, but that's just because there's so much goodness here. And I mean, I can't imagine a better way than just to say, that's why you guys need to get Radical Radiance, because you need to find these other chapters. You need to hear about the other weeks. You need to learn how to clarify your vision. You need to learn about how to accept abundance and celebrate it and savor in the abundance. And truly, y'all all need to go get that pumpkin serum because I'm not messing around. That stuff is amazing.
Well, can I tell you something?
Yes.
If you go to radicalradiance.com and click on virtual goodie bag,
yes.
When you buy the book, just upload the receipt. A screenshot of it is fine. And you get access to my virtual goodie bag worth $350, which includes beauty food recipes, 1-minute meditations, my manifestation workshop, plus a $25 gift card to Savor Beauty. So you can get that pumpkin serum.
Oh, snap. I was going to ask, I was going to be like, do you have any little goodies or secrets for us to walk away with? And there it is. You gave us a whole virtual gift bag. Oh, you guys.
Yes,
we're walking
there you
away
go.
with tangible items. Angela, but where can we find you? Where can we find this gorgeous book and the planner? Where can people come visit, get spa treatments? Blast away. Tell us all about it.
Okay, just go to radicalradiance.com and all the links are there. You can come, if you're in New York City, come visit us at Savor Spa. You can go to savorbeauty.com if you want to stock up on your organic goodies. And you can connect with me on Instagram at Angela Gia Kim.
Angela, you have been an absolute light. I am so glad that we had you here. This was so much more than just skincare conversation. It was life. It was beauty. It was radiance. And I thank you so much for being here. And I'm coming to Savor when I get to New York. I go there all the time. So
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm there. I'm a pencil me in for one of them facials. So, Coffee Dons, that's it for this week. Make sure to follow all of those links below and Angela's work, buy the book. Everything will be tagged below. And we will see you next week. Bye. Thanks, Angela.
Mwah.